So, hi and good evening. Welcome to the IBD Ostomy Support Show. I'm Louise, aka Crohn's Fighting, and tonight we have a guest on the show. We have our number one biggest fan, Graham, the man that makes me laugh every time we do the show because he likes to send me messages.
AKA the G-Man.
AKA the G-Man, that's the one. What we're doing tonight, okay, so tonight we are going through urostomies, I can't say that word. Catheterization, that's the one. Sorry.
The changes of stomas throughout 40 years, wasn't it, Graham?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so the development of stomas through 40 years and what it's like having a stoma as a child.
What else? Yeah, sorry, I'm from my boudoir again. I have been relegated to the bedroom. No, I'm joking, but I can't do it from the living room because my desk, you can see Ben with his old headphones on and playing his game in the background. So with the big flashes, which then puts my desk to shame. So I've had an incredibly busy week. You wouldn't look it by my fresh-faced and happy demeanour. I have been travelling and I have been so busy this week. I've had normal work. I've had school runs, brownie runs. I was in Cardiff yesterday and I come back from Cardiff this afternoon. I was down there and I did a presentation for Pelican with regards to my life story for stomas and along with the vitamin bag that I've been using, which I've had great success with. So what else? I'm just trying to think. Putting me on a guilt trip because I've not been home for 2 days. I've got a busy day tomorrow. The weekend, I am actually going to go offline, kick back and relax. I don't know how long that will last for because you know what happens every time your phone goes flashing. You like to pick it up. So, unfortunately, I don't think Natalie's joining us this evening. That is purely because she's not very well, bless her. She might be on the live chat. She just won't be on video because she's got she's got tonsillitis and she can't really speak. So I will pass you over to Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel, aka Rockin' Two Stomas. I'd just like to say that Steffi's won't be coming on either because she's got a lot of things on and she's not well at the moment. But I know that she's really sad that she's missing Graham because Graham, you mean a lot to her, and she very much loves. When she did your story, I think she was very touched by your story. So I know that. So I thought I'd just give it a quick mention. Okay, so this week has involved me experiencing my first total obstruction, and oh my god, it was awful, terrible. The pain was but it paused. Well, actually, Steve was asleep most of it, so it was my friends that I was on the phone.
What time was this, girl? What time was this?
Like 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And then the girls on the show helped as well because I was messaging them.
How possibly did you get a obstruction, young lady?
Because I had Special K cereal. So
you tit. And I think I actually said that to you as well when you messaged me and said it was the Special K.
But in my defence, I've always had it. And has Louise gone? In my defence, I've always had it, and it hasn't done it before. So this is the first time. But I did think it was the onions that I had.
Yeah.
So, did you chew properly though?
Sorry, somebody was just asking me how to use the live chat, so I had to do a screenshot and I had to take myself off, or else you'd have seen me holding my rather nice pink mobile phone up to do it.
No, I think I didn't really chew properly. No, and but I didn't realise that I didn't have any movement from 9 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock at night, and at all, no output at all. So I ended up in hospital and managed to move it myself, which was fine. And then I kind of convinced them not to keep me in because it showed that I was still in obstruction because the backflow once it had moved. But so I ended up coming home and I'm a bit sore, but I'm okay. And I kind of a bit worried about eating. So I'm just eating soft food at the moment and trying to make sure I do eat. But yeah, so that was my first experience, which I'm always was proud I was a food rebel. And now I kind of think, now maybe.
Did it come back to bite you in your bottom, lady?
My stoma. Yeah, so that was this week. From last week I was really stressed and I'd overworked way too much. This week I feel like I'm managing it a bit better. I'm time blocking my time. and it seems to be working really well today. So I feel a lot calmer, and I'm not completely work orientated. Getting ready for the holiday in Gran Canaria, trying to get things packed. Yeah,
It's a
be
lovely,
nice to have the sun.
lovely place to go to.
Have you been?
I've been 4 times.
Have you?
It's just the best place.
Oh,
Awesome.
But yeah, lots of people say that.
Whereabouts you going?
Steve, do you know where we're going?
It's Palmer's or something like that.
Las Palmas.
Las Palmas.
So you're going to La Palma?
Yeah, all right. Say it in the native tongue then.
Well, I've been over that. I've been over that end more times than I care to admit.
And so getting ready for that, and then I'm doing a talk for my stoma nurses to the rest of the medical profession in Bournemouth Hospital Tuesday. So that'd be interesting. And I've been asked to be on the radiology panel because I put a complaint in. I experienced a really not good thing when I was in hospital with shaming another patient, and since then they want me to be part of this patient group thing. So it's all good. I'll pass you over to Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve. Hashtag aka Baghdadi. There you go.
Love it.
Can you see it?
You big
Put it down a bit. Yeah, that's it.
There you go. Can you see that there?
Yeah, I'm going to have to
creative.
take a picture of that later.
It's my week.
Steve, did you want to start doing my canvas?
No, absolutely not. My week's been quite full on, to be fair. Obviously, took Rachel back to Bournemouth. Car was amazing. My boxing training started off properly on Monday. I've hit the £900 mark. What's happening with the screen now? I can't see none of you.
Well, we can see you.
We can see you.
Okay. Yeah, I've hit the £909 mark now, so I'm looking for £1,000. DHL will match that.
Wow.
So it's exciting times at the moment. Can't really say too much. Can we, Rachel?
No, we can't.
I've got to get to Manchester Monday for a coloplast thing. Can't say much about that either yet, but it's exciting times. Things are looking up. I think it's my Humira day today. I have to check my diary. Really, I haven't stopped, to be fair. I'll be glad when the weekend arrives. I've got my boys this weekend, and I got Monday and Tuesday off, which we didn't want it off, but work have said there's no work. You can have the 2 days off. We'll pay you 1 day, or you can owe us 2 days in overtime. So decisions. But I'm going to Manchester Mondays, which means I won't have to phone in work sick.
So that's really good. Worked out really well for you.
Yeah, it worked out
I
really
hope your work don't watch this, Steve.
No, I haven't phoned in sick, have I? So it's all good.
No,
and really, that's. I can't think of anything else at the moment that's. There's lots of things
Your
I want to say, but
started this week. That's important. Your boxing.
I've started my boxing training. That's brilliant. I've got my actual fight date. And that's the 4th of March. I've had to supply a letter to the trainer from my nurse. I had a good chat with my nurse. She said to me, I basically said, look, I need a letter to say from you that I'm able to be punched in the stomach. I said, you're completely covered. Any injury, I'm taking it fully responsibility for myself. The box that you wear in boxing, the box that covers your groin, I'm wearing quite a high one that covers half my hernia, half my stoma, and I've made a shield that covers the rest. So literally, it's only going to hurt as much as any punch in the stomach would hurt. My hernia is going to be covered. My letter covers that, and my nurse, bless her, she said, well, I leave in a couple of months anyway.
Oh no, she's your favourite nurse, though, isn't she?
She's awesome. She's awesome. But you know what? I would, even if I did get injured there, it's fully my responsibility. There's no way I'm backing out now. It's like living my youth again.
Do you know what, Steve? You've just actually reminded me. I had a letter through from my stoma nurse the other day because I haven't had my stoma reviewed for about a year now, and you've just reminded me I better ring her tomorrow.
Yeah, get on it. It's important. So So it's looking good. Training's looking good. Really enjoying being back in the gym again. And now it's time for the G-Man.
Oh,
Graham, introduce yourself, young man.
thank
Yeah,
you.
man.
Well, I'm Graham, aka G-Man.
Yeah.
Been around a few Facebook stoma sites for a few years now. This week started off quiet for us. Had a GP appointment yesterday, and I mentioned that I had a bit of a spot in a certain place, and when it was examined, it's turned out to be a cyst the size of a golf ball,
Wow.
Wow.
and that's in the groin area. So she started on antibiotics, and if there's no improvement by tomorrow, I've got to go back, and she's going to refer straight to the hospital for it to be drained. But luckily, the pains now start to subside, so hopefully the antibiotics are starting to work.
Is you trying to pick the cyst out at all any reason as to why you could have been experiencing the pain?
I think so.
Or increased pain?
Well, it was increased pain yesterday when the GP squeezed it, and she said, "Did that hurt?" And I nearly went through the roof. So yes, so we'll see what happens tomorrow.
How many of the home remedies did you try from the ones that some of us suggested on the groups?
I've put a hot water bottle on it constantly.
Oh, hot water bottles are the go-to. I think this should be in every medical.
Oh, no.
So I've been trying that, and that is helping a lot. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. But as it happens, I'm at the GP tomorrow to see the practice nurse because I get 3 monthly injections for my bones because I've got osteoporosis, because of steroids, because of the Crohn's, and because of kidney disease. But apart from that, it's been a quiet week for me because I normally have 3 or 4 hospital appointments a week. This one's been a quiet one.
Yeah. So you got Crohn's, Graham?
Yep, I've got Crohn's. Sorry.
When was you diagnosed with that? If you don't mind me asking.
That was diagnosed when I was 17, but I've had a stoma since I was a baby. My first stoma was I was only an hour old.
Honestly.
Yeah, I was full term, but I only weighed 2 pounds when I came out, and I had no opening of the rectum, so that created a stoma sort of immediately.
It's quite rare, isn't it, Graham? That's imperforated anus. Isn't it? I can't say it, or is that how you say it?
It is imperforated anus. So I had that for 2 years, and then it was reversed again. But between the ages of 2 and 7, I was just constantly incontinent. I had no control whatsoever. So it was agreed that the stoma would be put back age 7, and I had a colostomy then. And then it was about 8 years later, I started to bleed quite a lot. And there was a lot of blood coming from behind. And it was constant all the time. And I was just so tired. And
how old was you then? Sorry.
It was December 1988 it started. Because I remember it was Christmas Day that I first noticed the bleeding started from behind. And at first they weren't worried, and then it was getting worse and getting worse. So that summer of 1989, I was 17. I had just left school 1 week, and I was in hospital the following week for investigations where they'd done all the camera tests and biopsies. And then a few days later, I got told that it was Crohn's disease, but they didn't want to do anything at that point. But on the same day that was diagnosed, I was told I was diagnosed as diabetic as well. So I had 2 things to cope with.
You've had a lot of, because Graham wrote his story on Steffi's Let's Be Ostomy Confi's page. When I read it, honestly, Graham, I just couldn't. All I got was like how much you've overcome, like at a really young age, and how many diagnoses you have, and I never realised, because I've seen you on the groups before, but I never actually realise your story was that in depth, and why at a young age, like why you like being told at 7 that you had to keep the stoma a secret and not tell anybody, how it's impacted you.
It's had a huge impact, even up to the last couple of years. You know, when someone tells you you just got to keep it a secret, tell nobody. Well, in my mind, when they said nobody, that was it. I just closed off from the world totally.
It's a game changer, isn't it?
It is, and that went all the way through childhood to adulthood, even to when I started work. I mean, I just refused to tell anybody.
Just a secret.
Wow.
Graham, I've read. Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to ask one question, just before I forget. When did you find the groups, and was that the beginning of like opening up? And
it was. I'd been on 1 or 2 groups for a couple of years, and then as I started to get a little bit of confidence, I found other groups that were more helpful. And there's been a couple of groups the last year or so that have opened us up even more. And then when I found this show, because I've always been sort of old school, you know, I've always been private about it, not discussed.
You're like my mum, it should be kept private. She knows it's there, but she doesn't need to hear about it. Yeah, I know what I mean.
And that's the way I was brought up as a youngster.
Yeah.
Old school. And then when I found out the younger generation, like yourselves,
we have no shame.
Like me.
That you were more open, and I thought, wow, well, if those can be that open, why can't I?
That's amazing.
And that's where
I remember the first time I spoke to you, Graham. I remember your first kind of interaction. It was over the Kelly Poo moment, wasn't it?
That's right, and that's where the old school me came out.
Yeah, and but you know what? You handled it absolutely like a legend.
Thank you.
You know, you did. You basically, that's what it's all about. It's about saying your opinion on things. You haven't got to like everything. Nobody's going to like everything.
That's right.
But just being, and like I remember a couple of people jumped on it as if to say, "Oh, you can't say that." But the way that you said it didn't require any nastiness towards you, none at all.
Thank you. And
it didn't. Did it?
We're really good friends now.
Yeah, that's
we're really good friends.
Guys, can I just ask a quick question, because there's something that's come up on one of the groups. Now, somebody's asked about loperamide and whether or not it's true that you can take up to 40 tablets a day to stop an output, to slow down the output with an ileostomy. Now, I personally, I can't use loperamide because of the casein that's on it. It's got a sweetener in it, which in fact exacerbates my output and it makes it worse. Personally,
really, I didn't know that.
It's different for different people. For me, it's no good. I'm no good with sweeteners. It's why I have to stop.
I'm not allowed, and I'm not allowed it because of the C. diff. Like I'm not allowed to take it at all.
I've never had it. I haven't.
I took up to 15 a day.
Yeah.
Does it work for you?
It does. But what I find works even better if I open up the capsule and just take the powder.
Yeah.
It works even better. Because my consultant says even if you've spread that on your food, it works just as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's a good one to know. There you go, Ashley. That's that one answered. Personally, I don't take the loperamide. But Graham, what I was going to ask you, how did you find going from a colostomy to an ileostomy?
That happened. When did that happen? I took ill again in.
I worked out it was roughly 93, 94, wasn't it, that you had your ileostomy done?
No, that was done in 2002.
Oh, it's 2002 you had your ileostomy done, because there was no dates on the paperwork, and I was trying to guess your age from 88 to.
No, what happened in 2001? I took ill and I was rushed into hospital because I was walking up the stairs one night and I heard a pop in the back of me left leg. And looked down and suddenly the leg became swollen. And I thought, oh, that's not right. So my dad says, oh, we'll go up to A&E and get it checked out. So nipped up to A&E I was checked out, and they said, "Oh, you pulled a muscle. Go home, rest up." So does that. Next morning, I get up, I hear a pop in the other leg, and that starts to swell up. So it goes straight to the GP, and she took one look at it, and she says, "I'm going to ring for an ambulance."
Wow.
And my dad says, "Well, it'll be quicker if I just take him, won't it?" And she wouldn't say what was wrong. She says, you've just got to go to hospital directly from here. So by the time I left my GP surgery to get to the hospital, which was about half an hour away, my legs had become even more swollen, and got assessed and got sent to one of the general wards, and they've done a weight, and the weight is, that's just what my normal weight was, which at the time was about 39 kilos. By this time, I was 48 kilos in 24 hours.
Wow.
And then suddenly, the swelling just went up and up and up and up and up. And it got to the top of my chest. And the following day, the weight is again, and I was up to 95 kilos.
Oh my God.
And I was starting to panic then, because they didn't know what was wrong. And they're doing all sorts of tests. I say, my legs were out there, literally.
They didn't know. They didn't know what it was.
They didn't know what it was. They'd done loads of tests, and finally they found out I've got nephrotic syndrome.
Could you repeat that?
Nephrotic syndrome.
Is it that with the protein? The protein.
The protein, yeah, the
from
protein
the urine.
From the kidneys.
Wow,
so
that's amazing.
I was in hospital 3 months for that, and they eventually got my weight down slowly, but it was going to take another 9 to 10 months to get back to where I was.
Wow.
So over the months, I was on a high dose of steroids. I think I was on 60 milligrams for about 5 months. So finally got to the end of that, and I was all set to go back to work, and I started to get really bad abdominal pains, and started to bleed into the stoma, and the bag was filling up with blood. So goes to see my consultant, and he just took one look at us. He says, "I'm going to admit you." So they admitted us, and they've done more tests, and they said that the rest of the colon is just so inflamed it needs to come out. So I had a few days to think on it, and it was the hardest decision to make, because I was just so used to the colostomy.
But choosing to have the ileostomy, I bet it was I bet it's quite scary. Like when you're used to one way, like for like 20 odd years, and then
that's right, because I had a routine with it.
Of course, yeah.
Because as you know, a colostomy is different. You've got your routine. It was changed at certain times, and I like that routine, and I've always had a routine because I need help.
Graham, can I ask you, is there any reason as to why you used a closed colostomy bag and not one that you could release the output and keep on for a longer period?
It was just what I was started on as a child.
Just familiarity.
Yeah, and it's what I was used to. But when I was a baby, they didn't have any bags for babies at all.
Can't believe that.
And my mum kept telling us all they had was bandages, and had to wrap bandages.
Your skin must have been so sore.
She said it was.
Wow.
But they had to change the bandages like 6-7 times a day.
So can I just quickly ask, like, because I like history, and I like seeing how things change, and I love, because I've seen a few of the urostomy bags and how they've changed. Like, did you have the rubber bags at the beginning?
No.
You didn't have the rubber bags?
I had these, they were white. I think they were Convatec bags. But they were white and really loud.
Really?
They were horrible. As soon as you moved your body, it crinkled.
Like crisp packets.
Yeah.
Is it quite amazing seeing like the new products that are bought up now, you know, like salts with the colours and how...
Exactly. It's like, again, if it wasn't for your show, I wouldn't have tried the salts one.
Wow.
I've always been advised by me nurse, and I've only gone by what she said. I've never ever tried anything off my own back until now.
That's amazing. That's really good, and that's really good
Brilliant.
to like hear that the show has helped you do that, because I think there comes to a point where patients don't want to go against nurses, but then it's also taking your own like accountable and responsibility of then going and trying products yourself, because you don't know if you're allowed to, do you? Especially if you've been told all your life like what products to have, and then you think, oh, am I allowed to go and order this one? Am I allowed to do that?
It is a debatable concept. I mean, Graham, was it the bag roulette that inspired you to try the different brands?
Mm-hmm. It was, I think it was more curiosity as well.
Yeah, well, they say curiosity killed the cat.
Bag roulette. Well, there's that many products out there, isn't there? There's got to be one for everyone.
That's
right. If anyone's struggling with leaks or whatever, there's that many different products out there, and and everyone will say, "Oh, this is fantastic for me," and yet it's rubbish for someone else. So we all have different skin types, don't we?
And in this day and age, you shouldn't be struggling and suffering with leaks, with amount of products that are out there, with amount of different types of products for different. If you are struggling, yes, it's ideal to speak to your stoma nurse, but also ask, there are different products out there. There are different adhesives, and I think it's just trying it. But sometimes we can be so locked, especially the older generation. They don't like to go outside of what the nurses say, so they stay to the same product.
I was the same.
Were you?
A lot of that's down to the internet as well. Just these groups alone.
But
the amount of people that will show something different. Wait, turn you.
Yeah, but at the same time, you have to admit how protective we all get over our specific type of bag.
Of course, yeah.
The debates that we have over what we think is better, and we're all trying to turn the other side.
No, never.
I think
to the dark side. Come to the light, Steve. Come to the lights.
Never.
I think also though that it's like being your own advocate, and it's being able to kind of ask, like before when I first got diagnosed. So it was all, we didn't know why, and it was said it was in my head, and I kind of listened to what the doctor said, and I lost my voice. To be able to say, to ask questions, to kind of actually challenge what was being said about me, which wasn't true, but I just went with what was said. And then over time, I've realized that I do have a voice, and that it is okay to stand up.
It is. And not only that, you're getting more knowledgeable. The more you ask questions, like you, Graham, you've had a stoma for years and years, haven't you?
That's right. It's
but I bet you've learned that much more within the last couple of years.
I probably have. Yeah.
And I don't know, knowledge is power, isn't it?
It is.
Why should you suffer leaks and stuff when you can just try another product? Doesn't work. I tried 8 different bags, and 8 different times I had rashes until I found a bag that was perfect, which I stuck with, and then I changed that. So you can't be stuck in your ways. It's your life, isn't it?
It's like I used to use a 2-piece system. I've used a 2-piece system for 38 years. Then my stoma nurse decided to try us on the 1-piece, and at first I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And I'd be on the phone, can I go back to me 2-piece? And she was insisting that I stick it out. But now I couldn't go back.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
But I didn't have a stoma nurse or stoma support until I was age 21. We had nothing.
No, that's appalling, and I hope that it's changed. I hope it's not like that anymore, and that there is more support out there for children.
And like I say, at school, those kept turning around and says, "It's not my problem," but it was. They just said
it should never be your problem, though. So anyone that is watching this, so old ostomates, new ostomates, anybody that is going to have an ostomy, you should never be ashamed of the fact that you've got a stoma, because stomas save lives, stomas improve lives, stomas help lives, they relieve the symptoms. Once you get over the initial teething problems, and if you don't have too many issues, then the stoma gives you your life back. Life doesn't stop because you've had stoma surgery. Life goes on. The reason you have that surgery done is to give you a future.
Absolutely. but you know, I find, Louise, when I had my stoma, I was pretty much on the forums for about, I don't know, 3 months beforehand. So I knew plenty of people who had ostomies. I didn't really talk to them because it wasn't an issue for me until I actually had one. But I never actually felt alone in that respect. To the thought of having an ostomy and not being online and not knowing any of the groups must be petrifying. Must be, you know, like the secret thing about keeping it quiet and not telling anyone, because we don't talk about in real life. In real life, without, you know, if you go to the toilet normally, you don't really talk to your friends about the toilet things. And so, if you got an ostomy, you're even less likely because you're different from others. Then once I found that the forums and stuff, you realise that how many people have got ostomies, and you know what? It's nothing to chat about. You could talk to a complete stranger about pooing on your leg, and no one bats an eyelid. You know what I mean?
I was a bit similar.
Not
to
your
Graham,
leg.
like,
I'm not pooing on.
I was a bit similar, like in only a little bit in that I didn't know that the groups existed. So until I started my blog, like in January, I didn't even know that there were any groups, and I missed that identification with somebody else that knows what it's like to have a stoma, knows what it's like to wake up in the middle of the night and have an accident, and you leak through and you're like, oh, covered in shit.
You're going to swear, were you?
Nobody else is gonna know what that's like. And it wasn't until I sort of did my blog, was on the group, met you. I didn't even think to type in Facebook and find it. Just didn't even pop into my head. And it's, for me, it's like the key is identification and somebody who understands. We will never have the same level of knowledge as the stoma nurses. We just won't, because we haven't done the training. As much as we have the experience ourselves, we don't have the training, but we have the experience where we can help other patients and help other people with stomas with what it feels like.
That's it. So we live with it. The stoma nurses go home at the end of the day and shut it off.
Exactly.
Yeah,
we can't.
I know, but at the same time, we've always got to remember that stoma nurses are clinically trained. As much as we get helps and tips within the group, if there's a problem and it needs to be seen,
of course,
to get that seen to.
They're professionally trained, and they should be the go-to people to go to. But I think it's also added, like we can also add to it with our experiences and it's having the both. So it was nice to actually have somebody who sort of helped the psychological side, then, should we say, help more with the psychological side. And
okay, just to do a quick interruption, sorry, because all the messages are popping up and everybody's asking questions and saying hi. Luciana says hi.
Hi, Luciana.
We're
coming to Birmingham soon, hopefully.
Yeah, she's filed her papers in December. They said it can take up to 10 weeks or more, and then she'll be over in the good old wet and windy UK.
Sutton or Solihull, I think, one of the two.
Val has also said hello. Val's popped up on Instagram and said hi, guys. She's doing well. She said, with regards to the pyramid, apparently any more than 16 a day, then they're non-effective. It is just like eating a packet of Smarties. She's also said she's not too bad. She's seen a surgeon. She's having her colostomy taken down.
Is she?
Yeah. But she's keeping her ileostomy as she has both at present. She also has the suprapubic catheter, the one that you had, Rachel.
Yeah, she has, because they were talking about a urostomy for Val, but I don't know if that's still on the cards. But Val's been through a lot, I think, the last years. Seems to be one problem after the other.
But Val said that Graham's story is very similar to hers.
Really?
She's also with most colostomies are closed bags, she said, and she's used both the drainable. She uses a closed one on the colostomy and a drainable one on her ileostomy. And she also said, "I'm happy for you to repeat anything you say." So, hi, Val. And she said that she also self-catheterized for many a year as well.
Yeah, that's I find that difficult to cope with.
So how long? So when did you start self-catheterizing? Because did you have bladder issues from the beginning?
Can we just get this straight? Is this self-catheterizing with the urine?
Yes.
So the little catheter sleeves that you put in your urethra.
Yeah, I didn't realise whether you could do that with fecal matter. I didn't know, you see, because I'm not as educated as some people. And not only that, anyone that's listening might not be just as educated as well. So
okay.
I thought we'd best clear that up.
Yeah, it's from the bladder, direct from the bladder.
Thank you, Graham.
I started to get issues. It was only months after I got the rectum removed. A lot of nerve damage was done. So I wasn't emptying the bladder fully. And I kept getting one infection after another infection. And then I had a really bad one where I couldn't pass water for 24 hours. And the pain was just phenomenal.
Unbearable.
So my GP just took one look and he says, I don't know how you've lasted this long, because my stomach was so swollen. So again, rushed off to the hospital, put in a catheter, and huge relief. And a couple of weeks later, another infection and another infection, and it started to get worse. And then I started to get admitted to hospital with them. So I was referred to an infection team, and those tried us on different antibiotics, but they kept getting worse. And then I had another really bad one about 8 years ago, and I was admitted to the renal team because of the nephrotic syndrome. And it was those that suggested we try self-catheterisation, and I refused point blank at first. And all they kept saying is, well, you can't refuse because it's the only option you've got. And they sort of cornered us into saying, yes, I'll do it against my own will. They just went on and on and on. So eventually I says, okay, I'll try it. So they bought these box of catheters to us and put it on the end of the bed, and then they left. And for 2 days they were still at the end of the bed, and one of the nurses came in and she says, have you not done a catheter yet? I says, well, nobody's trained us. And she just looked at us and went, oh, well, I thought you would know what to do. So that didn't go down too well.
That was similar to my story.
So then they said it's best if the urology team get involved. So they brought urology across to come and see us. And they started to have an argument of who was supposed to look after us. Should it be the renal team or should it be the urology team? And there was these two doctors giving it what for in front of us, saying, no, it should be you. No, it should be you.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, just to think it, because sorry, Graham, I know with the self-catheter for you, self-catheter, putting a catheter in is difficult for anyone. I know that because I know my mum, with what she does in care, my mum deals with putting catheters in for people that aren't as able to do them, because my mum's a carer and my mum does both the men and the females with putting them in. Val said it's easier for the man because you can actually see what you're doing because you've got it sort of there in front of you. She said, whereas Rachel can vouch for with the self-catheter, putting the catheter in for women, it can be slightly more difficult because you need a mirror and you have to locate the urethra to put it in and the spasms.
I half agree because I agree that it's like trying to find a urethra. Like, it's the same thing as Graham. I worked in the hospital and I was on radiotherapy department, and while I went to the urology department while I was working in the cancer department, and I got given a box and they said, Rachel, I haven't got time to show you, you need to do it yourself. Well, I didn't know what this thing was, where it's supposed to go. I didn't know where my urethra was. I was on the toilet, the mirror plopped in, I wanted everything to go away. It was just really difficult. And when I found a urethra, it was okay. But when you have, like, going back to what Val said, when you have a urethral catheter or suprapubic catheter, it's hard. It can be harder for the guys because even though you can see where you're going, you have to go further up.
You do.
So I half agree with that. I agree with what Val's saying. It's difficult for women to find where it is, but once you've found it, you only go in about that much. For a man, it's a lot further.
And you've got to go around the corner.
Yeah, that's what I got told. Yeah.
And it can be very, very uncomfortable. Because the catheter I use at the minute, it's got a tip that goes up, so it slides around the corner, which is much easier. But eventually I got the training I needed for it. And and I was referred back to urology. But the only way that I've coped with it is just I blank it out every time because I just hate doing it. I've never.
I'm cringing here. I'm not saying a word. I'm just cringing at every sentence.
And I do that every 4 hours.
Wow.
Day and night.
Sometimes, like I found that with my health things, you know, I had ISC, which is intermittent self-catheterisation, but that ISC is a lot easier to say. I did that, you know, and then I had the urethral catheter, and I had the suprapubic catheter, and then I had the bladder removed and the urostomy. And like I still stay in the groups now, the catheter groups like that I found, because to remind me how, because my life was so difficult when I had to self-catheterize, when I had to catheter, it was really hard. And now that's gone, I sometimes can forget actually how bad it was. And how it did it, like I had to do it 12 times a day because my retention just wasn't, even with the catheter going in, it wasn't emptying. So it was, I had to work in a busy radiotherapy department, trying to find time in between patients where you don't have time to go in and catheterize was just really hard. And
it was never going to last, was it? Not doing like that, living like that.
No, and it didn't. And I had the indwelling catheter, and then while I was still working, I tried to still be there. And what was really good, like, was that we had a patient once, and the patient had an indwelling catheter, and because he was having prostate cancer treatment, and they actually said to him, well, that he needed to have the catheter because he was in retention, and he wasn't going to have it, and he was kicking off, and he was getting very violent, and he wasn't listening to anybody. He goes, none of you understand what it's like. And I knew that I would go off work soon, and I knew I wouldn't be in work long. So I went, when I took him off the bed, I asked him again about having this catheter. He went, you don't understand, nobody knows. So I just pulled up my leg and I went, I do understand. You've got yours for 6 weeks. I've got this the rest of my life. I said, do it. You need it to save your life. You need the treatment, otherwise they'll stop treatment. And he did it. I got bollocked for it, but he got the catheter in, and he finished his treatment. So and I actually left soon after because I knew that I couldn't continue working. So but in that way,
flashing the patients, didn't you?
You're flashing, I know, but I'm quite like I was. That's just what I'm about. Like he needed that identification. He needed somebody to go, yes, I know it's painful. I know it's awful having a catheter, but if it's going to help you finish your treatment, to have it. And that's what I was able to do. Yes, they weren't too happy about me actually like telling them my story, because you're not supposed to tell them your medical history. But in that moment, it was the right thing. And
you know what, though, sometimes those people need the push. I mean, my nan had colon cancer about 8-9 years back. My nan had all the treatment. She had the op, she had the tumour removed, went through the radiation and everything else. And they said to her at the time, before having the radiation done, when she had the tumour removed, we'll give you a temporary ostomy until we've got rid of the cancer, because the radiation can damage the bowel. My nan, being rather old school and not wanting to have an ileostomy, said no. My nan's now got permanent incontinence from that because the radiation has destroyed the muscles as well as the bowel. And she still will not, to this day, even though she's having frequent daily accidents, she will not have that operation done.
So
yeah, it's okay for me to have it done. But she won't have it done.
My bladder's now so weak that I have to have Botox into the bladder every 6 months. Because if I don't, the bladder leaks.
Do you have that under general? It's
got to be done under general, yeah.
What does that actually do? So I'm not a massive understander of Botox.
It sort of inflates the bladder.
Okay. So almost like a filler.
Yeah, so the urine doesn't leak out.
Right, okay.
Stops us from leaking, especially during the night.
Kind of puffs it up a bit.
Yep.
Have they talked about any sort of, any options or anything like that? Do you see the urologist regularly, or is it just something that at the moment you're just seeing how it goes?
Well, I've got a urologist nurse that I speak to quite regular, and we've had discussions about the suprapubic catheter. We've spoke about another stoma, and at this stage I just don't want to think about that.
That's understandable.
I just think I've got too much to cope with adding more to it. I says if it becomes life-threatening, well, it's a different story.
Yeah.
Would a urostomy like what Rachel has, that would get rid of the catheter completely, wouldn't it? It would just be 2 stomas. Yeah. Okay.
But whether I could cope with that, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I totally understand.
Val said that she has Botox under local as well.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I remember Val reading that Val had Botox, because Val, I think they were talking about a urostomy with her. But I think like because when you sort of people talk about me about how I felt with my second stoma, you know, how did I feel about. And because I had 2 weeks before I had my urostomy, I thought, how am I going to cope with 2 stomas? And I had a suprapubic catheter in. I thought, how am I going to cope? And the answer now is so much better than I did, so much better. And it really took away that, you know, the infections are less, although I still get infections, I know, and other stuff, but the infections are less, and it did help. But it has to be in your time and what you want, because if you don't really want it, then you're going to resist it if it happens.
Yes, Steffi says hi.
Hi, Steffi.
Hi,
She
Steffi.
says, Graham, you have a lovely, gentle Geordie accent.
We miss you.
Val didn't mean it was me speaking.
Yeah.
Val didn't mean that it was easier for men to get it in. She said it's just easier for men to locate when they put the catheter in. That was me being a moron. What else? Graham, do you not think, I know you've got a lot to contend with as it is, but I'm just asking because I'm in a similar boat. I've got to have the rest of my bowel and rectum removed, but my bladder and my urethra is sticking to what is left of my large bowel inside. So I keep continuously having the scar tissue removed. They removed it last time, but it's not to say that next time that they go in that the bladder hasn't adhered to the bowel again. Yeah. Because of what my Crohn's does. So what would you say to me? What would you say if I refuse to have that operation done, even though I really need to have it done because my diversion colitis is bad and it'll stop my Crohn's symptoms from being as bad? What would you say to me if I was to say to you, well, I'm not having that done because I don't want to have a urostomy? I completely understand what you're saying, because it's very, very difficult.
It is
really difficult.
A difficult one.
I think it's about being messed with again, isn't it?
It is.
You've got yourself into a routine. I think no matter how hard the routine is, it's a routine, isn't it?
That's it.
And sometimes it's better the devil than no. Sorry, better the devil, you know. Even if it could be so much better, you don't know, do you? Until it happens, or it is a difficult one, isn't it?
When you've had so many surgeries, you know, now dialysis I am not needed as much as I did in February. It seems to be that I'm kind of stable, but I refused. When I got offered it in February, I refused it because I didn't want that, because I didn't want to go through that. So I get where you come from, Graham. You've had a lot. Your medical history is extensive. You know, reading your story was really like emotionally jerking. I just thought, how as a little kid going through everything and you're still smiling, you're still getting your football pictures taken. You know, it's really amazing. You should be proud of what you've achieved. It's awesome.
I am proud. You know.
There is that, but Graham, you've known nothing else, though, have you?
That's the other thing. It's part of my
It's
life.
your norm, isn't it?
It is.
It's just, you know, like a man born with no eyesight has never seen, so he doesn't know any different.
Right.
It's not like it was taken away from you. It's been like that since the dot, hasn't it?
It has, but I think where it just went wrong was I was advised wrongly.
Yeah.
Younger.
Yeah.
And that
just knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. I think.
Because I've had over 35 operations.
Oh my God.
I've been stretched twice.
Now that sounded horrific.
Yeah,
that sounded horrific.
I could do being stretched a bit.
Why did they do it so early on, though, if they knew that you was going to have another growth spurt after having that operation done?
Well, that was the thing. On past surgeries on other patients at that age, no one grew any higher.
Why?
They all stayed that same height because it was supposed to stunt your growth once they were messing around with your spine. But for some unknown reason, I started to grow. And then they put all these weights on us and stretched us, which was
Do they do that in? Do they do that in this day and age now? Is that what they do to you? Do they do traction before they take you in to put in the metal rods for the scoliosis?
Depends how badly the spine is bent.
Okay.
Because to put the metal rods in, you need a flat spine. Or they did back in the 80s when I had mine done.
Okay.
But yeah, it was.
And is that an issue now?
Yes, because my back pain is just beyond belief now. And it's because I'm getting older and I've got osteoporosis in the spine as well.
Okay.
So I've permanently got lower back pain. Because they wanted to do an MRI scan a few years ago when I had the rods in, but they couldn't do it until the rods came out.
It's all magnetic, isn't it?
And I had to make the decision, was it going to make me pain worse or better? And it was something that they couldn't say. It was 50-50. So I took the 50-50 chance, hoping it would improve. But sadly, it made it worse. And there's nothing more they can do with it.
You know what everybody has said on here? Luciana said that she agrees with Rachel. When you've had that many surgeries, you get scared.
It gets harder each time.
Do you know what? That is so true, Graham. It gets hard every time. Every time you are more resistant to pain relief, the pain relief doesn't touch. You end up screaming for days. It's harder, and you get more, and you'll get more scared, more anxious, and you think, like, I had 8 refashions of my ileostomy, and I could have thought, when they said to me when they originally talked about reversing it to kind of stop the prolapse, even though they didn't think it would work because my peristalsis doesn't work, I just thought the thought of it. And in the end, he went, I'm not doing any more. And I was relieved. Even though I've got this 8-inch prolapse, I'm still more relieved not to keep the surgeries one after the other. It broke me. It was like this. Like 2016 was an awful year. And it broke me, and having it fail. And I think it's the constant surgeries. They take something from you every time. And sometimes the healthcare professionals don't see that. They don't. If you have 1 or 2 operations, you've had 1 or 2. If you've had like 25, 30 odd,
that's right.
You've had a lot of bad experiences in those. You know, most just are great, but you have.
Mike has said. Yeah, Mike has said, he said he can't see anyone making the decision easily. He said sometimes it's better to have it forced on you, then you will always have. Then you have to find a way to cope. He said he feels lucky that the choice wasn't his. Yeah,
so really, it's about if it became life-threatening, then it's kind of, then...
Surgery is difficult for anyone, though, even if it's planned. I mean, Ben and my mum will tell you anything that they've written for my blog or anything like that. I'm apparently the most calmest person you will ever meet in your life, being faced when I'm due to go down on the table that morning. What they don't see is I go in to see the surgeon, the anaesthetist, by myself, and they don't see me breaking down and bursting into tears, getting it out of the way, pulling my shit together, sucking it up, and then going back out and waiting. They don't see that because they've been through so much as it is. It's just difficult. Look, I'm welling up now just thinking about it. That's mainly because I got an MRI at the end of this month and I'm sort of shitting myself. But
I find that I've always done my appointments on my own. I've always done them on my own. I've always sort of I think because partners I had at the time haven't been very supportive, and I've just always go to my appointments on my own, even when I've got choice. But one of my close friends, who's called Brummy Steve, who Steve says he hasn't been in Birmingham for 20 years, so he shouldn't be called Brummy Steve, but he is called Brummy Steve. He actually went with me to my urostomy appointment when they told me that when I did a routine cystoscopy, because of the 7 years with the catheter, my cells had started to mutate, and they were concerned it would go more cancerous, so it got removed within 2 weeks. And he came with me, and I'm glad that I actually brought somebody for that appointment, because they mentioned the children that are not able to, if I conceive, it's on my notes that I have to abort straight away. And I was glad I took somebody with me, because I totally did not hear that. So afterwards, he was getting me to repeat what was said, and I totally blocked that out completely. And he then had to tell me, and I was devastated because I didn't hear it. And I think now, if there's important appointments, I do try to take somebody with me, because you don't hear it all. And I totally gone off the point. I'm so sorry.
No, but you say that, Rachel. When I went to my appointment in the August with the obstetrician and the fertility clinic in the August before I had my op, I'm glad I didn't take anybody with me because I was a mess. I think I actually sat up at the hospital for about an hour and a half in the waiting room after the appointment and pulled my eyes out. Then pulled my shit together, went to the train station and rang Ben and said, well, that's a no. And I rang my mum, but my mum had already said to me, well, she said you sort of had a suspicion anyway. She said there's no point in keep crying about it and going over old ground. But it's difficult for everyone. It's not easy. If you have the support, then use it. Take them with you to the appointments, because sometimes, even though we've all been through what we've been through, and we've been through quite a substantial amount, considering our ages, it's sometimes easier to take someone with you and let them shoulder some of the stick that you feel like you're getting thrown at you at every appointment when they get told, no, that's not going to work, this isn't going to work, that's not going to work. Whether we're just resilient, stubborn ass mules.
It's if you've got the option as well to take someone with you, you know. If the supportive people around you that are able to carry this with you, then that's fantastic. But it's not always the case, is it?
No, but then you think that there's some people that might have that support, but they don't give them the option, and they just deal with it by themselves anyway.
A lot of my journey was done. A lot of my hospital journey is done on my own, and always had been, even with past relationships. But I have, if there's a major appointment, I will take somebody with me, even if it's my carer. I will take somebody with me, because I need sometimes you just get focused on some aspects of what's said and you don't see it from an outside, and it's good, and I appreciate not everybody can have support and get somebody to come with them, but it is good. If not, the hospital have advocacy services where somebody can come with you and make notes, so if you do miss something.
I never knew that.
Yeah, they do. It's called hospital advocacy, I think. There's a name for it, and every hospital has it. You can just inform, and you can ask somebody to come with you to help. I've done it once, because when I had an important appointment about the ileostomy and nobody came with me, and they told me then I could have this advocacy because I had lots of questions and I was missing stuff, and so they came with me and they were really good, and they asked questions that if you forget to ask, they will ask as well if you speak to them before.
That's really good idea.
Yeah, so
I didn't know about that, Rachel, at all.
Did you not?
No, not at all.
I might do a post about it. Maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Is it like a patient advocate or
like a chaperone type
like
thing?
a McKinsey friend?
Yeah, but they're actually employed with the hospital, and they're fully trained in advocacy. So they're trained in kind of I sometimes we call ourselves advocacy. Maybe it's not the same advocacy they use in the hospital, because they are
asking the right questions.
They qualified, they've done a course, and they are employed by the hospital, and they go with you to appointments. So you have a session with them before, what questions you want to ask, what you want out of the appointment, and then they come with you and they sort of will help ask questions you've missed, write down notes, so afterwards you can talk to somebody about what's been discussed. And that's what I missed, was talking to somebody what happened, because I had nobody to talk to apart from my crazy mind.
Yeah. And nobody wants that.
It's difficult because somebody else has said that they do the same. They go into their appointments and stuff alone because it's easier for them to cry.
Same here.
It's easier for them to cry, get it over and done with, without sharing fear to their families.
Yeah, and when you've had a chronic illness for a long time, we can be quite self-sufficient, and also in that very stubborn, and we worry about our families. And it was my mission when I had my urostomy and I was in for 3 months. I realised what it does to my family, and it's heartbreaking, and we're trying to protect them. But sometimes we need to balance that. If they do want to get involved, it's trying to balance it, because sometimes I can totally cut off my family in my health stuff, and actually they need that to feel like part of.
Does anyone on here have an overbearing mother?
Yes.
Rachel?
No comment, because she's watching.
It doesn't matter if she's watching, because if my mum watches this, my mum won't slap me because she'll completely agree, because she knows I'm right.
My mum will do,
yeah.
My mum's a nightmare, and I've learned over the years that I edit out the worst bits of the procedures that I'm going to have done. I do it in plain, simple English, because if my mum had her way, she'd probably rip apart half of the medical staff and say that they're not doing it. It's not happening, because my mum was dead against me going in for the second lot, for the second ileostomy, because of the amount of times I've died on the table before. She didn't want me to go in and have it done. And I was like, but I said, you're expecting me to live the way that I'm living. I said, for the rest of my life. I said, it's not possible. So I just edited out the really horrible bits and just told her little white lies and said, it'd be fine. I'll only be down there for 8 hours.
I'm the same. I am exactly the same.
I can't believe it's 9 o'clock. That's gone so quickly.
It has gone fast,
amazing to have you on the show, Graham, and it's just
Thank you for having us.
Makes my
nice
heart.
to hear your voice. When I'll be expecting my message as well.
Yeah, we want that message after the show. We want it.
Could you understand?
So if you rewatch it,
you have to say it instead.
We can understand you fine.
Yeah,
and it warms my heart to see how much you've come on in the last year, that the show's helped you, that the groups have helped you, that connecting with people has helped you. And it's just really nice to know that if anybody listening out there is struggling and accepting the stomas, that it's a journey of acceptance, and it comes through time, and don't push it.
Rachel, do you think there's any way that we can find about the hospital advocate or the friend that you can take in with you, and we can post it up onto the pages?
Yeah, I'll research it, and I can say my story, and maybe I could write something on it and then put it up. So I'll put some more details. So next week on the show, it is Young Carers Awareness Day. So next week we're going to talk. It's kind of what we've a little bit touched on tonight on young carers. We're also going to talk about family and caring. So actually, it's going to follow on quite well. So how does our journeys affect our family, our children, our friends? Because friends it affects them as well. Sometimes we can forget our friends when we've got family, and just talk a bit about that. So that'll be next week. So I'll pass you to Louise.
Okay, so Rachel's done for next week. We will say over and out for this evening. Thank you ever so much, Graham, for coming on the show and talking to us. We can now voice to the messages when we get them through. It's brilliant. More than welcome to come back anytime, and we'll say good night for this evening, and we'll see you next week at 8 p.m. So we'll say, my Crohn's fighting got a fat diet. I've lost 9 pounds. Yay!
Well done.
Anyway, I'll be continuing on that next week. There'll be a post going up on that Monday.
I'll ask by just reading it.
You just like reading it.
Yes.
That was my sense of humour. And anyway, we'll say good night for this evening. We'll see you next week, and thank you ever so much for watching. Any questions, then our inboxes are always open, but please do bear in mind we don't always reply instantly. It may take us a few hours or maybe a day or two. So we'll catch up with you next week. We'll see you next week and say night.
God bless.
Bye.
God bless.
Bye. Bye.
Can we swear?
You can swear.